Today we're here at Twisted Horn Mead and Cider. We're gonna go inside, meet the owners, try some of the mead, and see what this is all about. So come on. Hey Vince!
Hey, Rob, how you doing, man?
Very good, what's going on?
Another day in paradise, right?
Yeah, well, this does indeed appear to be paradise, or Valhalla, as it might be.
Yeah, bingo.
I am super excited to be here, checking out some of the meads that you guys got going on today. What should we do?
Well, I mean, you can try, have your choice.
Can I try all of them?
That's the Flight of the Valkyries, my friend, and yes, you can.
Take me away.
Designated driver, somewhere, anywhere.
Okay, here we go again. Hi guys, we're here today at Twisted Horn Mead and Cider with Vince Obarski, resident, I guess, are you guys brewmasters, vintners? What do you call yourself?
You could say winemakers,
Winemaker,
mead makers,
mead
cider
maker.
makers, technically, I guess.
The terminology is still in flux.
Yeah,
That's kind of exciting, and I think that the mead is even though I think it's one of the oldest beverages, fermented beverages, pretty much known to man. I think that it coming into popular culture is kind of a new thing.
Agreed. Yeah, no, it's kind of that, in my opinion, it's kind of like the redheaded stepchild of alcohol. I mean, if you want to, because beer, of course, everybody recognizes beer. Everybody recognizes wine. Everybody recognizes distilled spirits. But mead, 90% of the time you say the word, they're thinking you say meat. It's like, no, it's not bologna. Okay, it's the oldest fermented beverage on the planet. So
fantastic. So for the people that we're talking about that may be a little bit in mystery over this, maybe you could explain a little bit about what makes mead.
Well, technically mead is three things to make a basic mead. It's honey, water, and yeast.
Mm-hmm.
That said, it could be as sweet as you want, it could be as dry as you want, it could be carbonated, it could be flat, still. It could be with fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, whatever you want to do. The type of honey that you use plays a huge role in how it's going to taste. The type of yeast that you use plays a huge role. The type of water that you use plays a huge role. But the basic mead, honey, water, and yeast. That's it.
Excellent. That sounds delicious.
It is.
So can you tell us a little bit then about, again, since most people I think don't know a little bit about the history of mead. I mentioned that it's one of the oldest beverages fermented, and that's, I think, because people just stumbled upon it earlier because honey was a common, not just a common food, but I think it was one of the first foods that hunter-gatherers maybe stored for long term, and so it had that opportunity to naturally ferment. So without me giving too much away, maybe you could tell our viewers a little bit about the history of mead and mead making.
Mead, it's all the continents short of Antarctica has evidence of mead making. I mean, it goes back tens of thousands of years. I think they unearthed pots and all that kind of stuff of old honey and fermenting vessels in China that goes back past 10,000 plus years.
Wow.
So, but there's evidence all over the globe. So it's one of those things of where it was the most popular drink out there at one time. It was the drinks of the gods and kings and all that kind of stuff. And it was a natural sugar source. Okay, so it was one of those things of where you could take the honey, and by accident, if you add a little bit of water to it, and all of a sudden, there's all types of bacteria and microbes floating around, inoculates it and turns it into booze. But that said, it fell out of favor. A lot of things played a role in that. It was socioeconomics. The king lopped off your head if you took his honey off of his bread. So mead making kind of fell out of favor too with new agricultural practices. Along comes fruits, apples and grapes and so on. And they said, oh, well, we can make booze out of that too. Well, I'm not going to lose my head over that. And honey is getting harder to come by. So they use these other forms of carbohydrates and sugars that they could ferment out and make booze and still be safe.
So Twisted Horn, so you guys have been around for how many years?
5 years. 5 years and a little bit.
5 years in Vista here. Yep. And so you want to tell a little bit about like what the inspiration was, how you got started, and built this powerhouse of mead that
powerhouse. I like that.
that you guys have grown into today.
Well, the first time I heard the word mead was playing D&D as a kid. That was a long time ago. I didn't know what it was. I knew what beer was, ale was, wine was, but there was this thing, mead. All I knew was it cost 2 gold pieces, and that it was more than ale and it was less than wine. So I said, well, it's still got to be kind of good, right? So fast forward about 10 years, I'm in the military, and I actually go to Norway. And during some of the free time, which we had there, it was like, okay, well, what do I do with my time? I want to go to town. So I went to town, went into a tavern. I saw this thing on the wall that said MJOD. I'm like, oh, barkeep, what is that? And he's like, in his broken English, he's like, for you stupid Americans, it's called Mead, but it's called Mead for you American folks. Oh my God, here I'm 10 years old. Oh my God, I got gold pieces in my pockets. It's like, oh God, give me some of that, you know, and well, I drank my fill. I don't remember how I got back to where we were bivouacked. I don't remember. But I was out of Kroner and basically out of my mind when I got back. I was like, wow, that's the craziest stuff in the world. And I figured, well, you know what? When I got back to the United States, I'm going to give it a try to make it. Miserable failures, didn't understand anything about sanitation practices and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to put that on hold. Went on my way the next 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden I got that itch of doing something different than my day job. And talked to the wife, got her permission, and
most important
it's like,
step.
yeah, exactly. I was not going to go anywhere without her okay. And so it's like, well, let's do this thing. And so I went into brew clubs and so on, and participated in different brew clubs. And they're like, wow, this is really, really good. And you know how to take it to the big events and so on, see what people think. Mm-hmm. Okay, sure, why not? And down at National Homebrew Conference, I don't know, about 6 years ago when it was down in San Diego, went there, and we had literally, our brew club had the longest line of everybody there because they were just lining up for that dang Mead. And I'm like, wow, maybe I can actually pull this off. And one thing led to another, and away we go.
Since we are a lifestyle show, and there's a lot of fantastic brew clubs in San Diego, North County Homebrewers Association was mine.
Okay.
Once upon a time. Who was your brew club, and like what kind of help and guidance, and how did they help you realize your vision and get to that point?
Barley Literates. That's who I was with, and I know a lot of those North County homebrewer people too as well. Mike Buck and a lot of people, of course. Actually, Mike Buck helped out with some of the interior on this. Actually,
I will believe that. It looks even better than his garage bar.
So of course you've been there, obviously. Say First Fridays and so on. So that, for instance, the structure here, the frame out and everything, it had to be done by a licensed contractor because that's the only way this city was going to approve it.
Sure.
They said, oh, it's going to be a load-bearing structure. It's like, well, okay, that's fine. So I called Mike. I'm like, hey, dude, what do you think? Can you come down here and give me a hand with this? And he's like, sure, absolutely. And came down and started, busting out a lot of this stuff here. So
how much mead did that cost you?
I don't want to make him look like a drunkard. It was a bit. So, but no. It was Barley Literates actually.
Barley. We know quite a few Barley Literates.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. So that's awesome, and that's great that you got started and you had a lot of support from the local homebrew community, because I think that's where a lot of people that have breweries and things in San Diego got their start. They're almost like an incubator.
It really is.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And a great place to meet great people with like-minded ideas and share thoughts and these sorts of things, as well as beverages. Mm-hmm. So now that said, now that you're up and running, you've been around for about 5 years, what is it? If I had to describe Twisted Horn to a friend or something, and maybe they had another meadery they thought they were going to check out, and I said, well, you got to go to this place because it's special, because of what is that thing that makes you guys special, that makes you stand apart, that's you got to come see it. It just makes it a must-see, a must-experience kind of place.
Well, other than the interior being, I'm sorry to say it, but I'm partial that it's the coolest tasting room in all of North County.
It's pretty cool.
I'm a little partial. But I think what sets us apart a little bit is most of the mead that you'll find out there, and I don't want to pigeonhole myself into anything necessarily, but a lot of them out there are going to be either really high in alcohol, really high in residual sugar, so very, very sweet, or extremely bone dry.
Yeah.
I prefer trying to thread the needle and say what's considered an off dry. So it's a little residual sweetness that's there. Fruit character helps to kind of provide some of that essence of sweetness, but without having a lot of extra sugar in there.
Yes.
So I also wanted to bring the alcohol level down, because most mead's between, like, say 12 to 20%. What I do here is more 8 to 10-ish, unless I really go haywire, and then I'll do something, of course, higher.
Sure.
But I think it's one of those things of where I want people to come in, enjoy, sit down, have a good time, be able to have some, and not, oh, I got 4 ounces in me and now I'm just laying on the floor.
Sure. I mean, 14 to 20% is like fortified wine. I mean,
Yeah.
that's up there. That's no longer the beverage of moderation.
It is. And as we're in literally Vista being kind of brew central anyway, we needed to formulate something that was going to kind of appeal to that culture. Those people have a certain expectation of taste profile and so on. But because they are the adventurous, at least in my opinion, they're the adventurous ones. Oh, I tried this new crazy weird thing out there. And it's like, well, those are the kind of people we want to tag. It's like, that's our, other than nerd folks, which I am, you want to get those beer people in here. And so when I ferment out, I'll use more beer and ale yeasts. Again, I'll carbonate. I'll make it kind of something that they're more familiar with versus just a still wine style, type of a beverage, and which is like, I can have a little bit and then I'm done.
Having judged a lot of homebrew competitions where I got put in the mead category because I was judging the mead category because I was one of the few people that knew what that meant at the time.
Yeah.
I very much understand and agree with the idea that a lot of meads are either very, very dry to the point where it's almost like kind of gives you heartburn on the first sip, or very, very sweet, which is the opposite problem, and I'm sure contributes to some hangovers and things like this. Or it tastes like dessert, and that's when I was first introduced to mead. It was like, oh, this is for dessert. Like I can't just drink this normal, because that commercial meads at the time were like there was only maybe 1 or 2 you could get, and they were really sweet.
But everybody started there. It's kind of like everyone started with Boone's Farm or something like that or whatever. So, on their journey to wine.
And then on our journey through high school.
Yeah. How much change do you got?
Exactly. We'll come back around to that in a little bit when we get into the tasting. I had a couple more quick questions about community and stuff.
Sure.
And so we touched on this a little bit, talking about some of the other brewers and stuff. And I was once had a brewery here in Vista, so I understand a little bit about the community. How do you feel that Twisted Horn has fit into the local beer and wine community and the business community? Have they kind of embraced you as a brother, or how's that been?
Actually, we're pretty fortunate. Vista has been a good city for us to put together this place. They've been very, very helpful. And now I'm not trying to get, kudos from the city of Vista, but no, they were very, very good about dealing with us and helping us along. And when we put it together, they were not throwing up constant roadblocks and everything else. So that was great. So as far as our relationship with the people around us, with the city, I mean, we try to give back as best as we can. We sponsor, for instance, the MS Walks. We're part of the Vista Chamber of Commerce. We've done batches where part of the proceeds go to cancer research and what have you. So because the people out there are supporting us, we want to try to, reciprocate and give them some support too as well. And I think that helps out with kind of putting us in a position in which people they understand that we want to be part of that community, that we want to be part of this, that we're not just like, hey, just give me your money and get out of here, beat it, vacate the chair, and let's get the next person in here. So it's nice. I mean, we do have a pretty close relationship with the general public and so on. So
right on. Are there any like breweries or other wineries in the area that you've done any collaboration with or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, the first collaboration that we did was with Battle Mage Brewing, just right up the street over here.
Yeah,
Ryan, Ryan and Chris. Yep. So it was fun. Ryan came over for the first day. We made a must, which of course is the precursor to making the mead. So we did actually. The must that would be going into this bottle, which was basically apple and boysenberry and wildflower. So we made the must over here the first day, kegged it all up, took it over to Battle Mage, and then we had a brew day, of course, over there. And it came out, well, we had Battle Mage And Twisted Horn, it's like, well, battle horn. It's like, well, and then Chris is like, no, battle horn of Gondor. It's like, all right, that's perfect. Yeah, it's battle horn of Gondor. So they use their divine light, white ale basically, and joined forces with the Mead. Came out with a braggot that was just fantastic.
That's
People
awesome.
just drank
man.
the heck out of that stuff.
You guys are deep in
yeah.
Lord of the Rings nerd heaven here.
Nerd, yeah. If you got an ounce of nerd blood, man, here's where you need to come.
That's
so.
awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about like where you source your ingredients. You have relationships with local, is it apiaries that make
apiaries?
Apiaries,
Yeah.
How's that work?
Actually, I get all of my honey. I get from Temecula Valley Honey.
Okay.
So Dan, who owns Temecula Valley Honey, great guy. I've known him for a lot of years. He sources primarily local as much as humanly possible. Unless because there's varieties of honey that you just can't get here. You have to go to the East Coast, or you have to go to the Pacific Northwest, or what have you. So he primarily tries to source everything local. And if there's something special that you want that's kind of out of that area, he can go ahead and source it for you and get it for you. But no, I've been working with him from the very, very beginning, even back to when I was home brewing, and wouldn't trade him off for anybody else. He's a great guy.
Awesome. That's good to hear. And, local... I'm sure that changes the flavor profile, as well as, with the crisis with the bees and everything else going on. I'm sure that anything you can do to help put things back into the local bee economy, if you will, is probably a good thing.
Absolutely right.
Right on. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit, but I want to kind of touch on it a little more in detail here. What would you say makes something craft? Like I said, there was only two commercial examples of mead when I started drinking that I was ever able to find.
Oh, yeah.
No, none of those are particularly well loved. So, but they're from, I guess, larger meaderies, somewhere England or something. But what makes something craft? And by extension, since mead is a much smaller beverage, it only kind of seems to get manufactured by small companies in small batches. Would you consider all mead craft? I know that's like a two-parter, but maybe we could.
Well, I mean, there are some out there that are definitely much larger and are able to source a lot more raw ingredients and so on.
Sure.
I think at least in my opinion, without trying to point fingers or anything else, because I mean everyone's got their own interpretation of what they want to do.
Sure.
I think for me, my interpretation of craft is not only the passion and the love that goes into it, but the willingness that, look, you know what? It's not all about the bottom line. It's about making the best thing that you can do. And even if, hey, look, you know what? I could be making a whole lot more if I use cheap ingredients or something like that. Then, well, that's just not what I want, because, I mean, you can't make a filet mignon out of hamburger, okay?
Sure.
So no matter how hard you try, it's going to fail. So to me, it's like, it's not about all the money. It's not about just ravaging the world and taking over everything and selling as much as humanly possible. To me, it's like, look, I want to get the best ingredients that I can, and if it means that I make less, okay, that's fine. But I'm going to put something out there that people hopefully are really going to dig.
So it's truly a labor of love.
It is. It really is, because I'm not getting rich. It is. Sorry, but that's true.
And the reason I asked that question, too, is because, we come from the beer world, and the definition of craft keeps changing. To the point where it's getting so diluted that people aren't even sure what it means anymore.
Yeah, Anheuser-Busch is blowing up all the craft places, and they call it craft.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
there's that, and then even the Brewers Association keeps expanding the definition of what is craft, so some of the bigger regional breweries can fit in it.
Yeah.
It's and at what point does it become not craft anymore?
Semi-political. I'm not going to go there though.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. And then I've seen all these amazing horns all over, and I'm assuming that those are drinking horns and not all horns of Gondor, as it were.
Not all of them.
So I guess you guys have a club here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little about what that's about and what the benefits
Sure.
are?
Well, we have 4 tiers, if you will, and you have your baseline tier, which you get to drink off the horns off the wall that we will keep here. and you have certain types of gimmies, like 10% off of your purchase or whatever it might be, without getting into a lot of the detail. But every tier above that, you get the base plus a couple of things. And then you actually get to buy a horn, a custom horn that has been made, and you get to keep that and bring that along with you too as well.
So at what level of the Odin's Warrior Club do I have to be in to get bottle service from Valkyries? I guess that's what I really want to know is how do I get the Valkyries?
Well, we're still working on that one. And, we have 2 good-looking Valkyries that do actually work here, so I got to say, just leave that alone. But, no, they're great people. Love to have them. I'm glad they're here. But, no, you're going to break deeper into your coin purse for that. So
I'll have to go slay some more orcs and build up my gold
there
coins.
You go. Anyway, so yeah, this guy was like one of the earliest formulations that I came up with. And actually, last year took a silver at the San Diego International Beer Fest.
Oh, awesome! That's big props.
Hey.
And before we even get into it, I just want to say that the artwork that you have got on these, I don't know who the artist is.
I'll tell you.
It is amazing. I mean, just gorgeous.
I got to give this guy kudos. His name is Xander Kent. And he's up in the Bay Area. But one time he came, well, more than once, but he came down here, checked our place out. And he's like, oh my God, this place is great. I love this place. Who does your artwork? So we really didn't have anybody really going on at that time. And he's like, man, if you're ever getting into doing the labels and everything else, I'd love to do it for you. And so we looked through his portfolio. It's like, oh, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah, and
so
I don't know how much this is going to come through on camera, guys, but this is some like Boris Vallejo, Frank Frazetta type amazingness.
Oh God, I got those books still too. Yes. Care to try some? I guess.
Indeed, I do.
All right, here we go. There we go. A little slight carbonation on that.
All right.
So this one basically, it's a Wildflower Honey, which is just kind of like wild forage for the bees when they're not in the orange groves or something else like that. Wildflower Honey, apple, and boysenberry. So you should be getting, floral notes. You'll definitely get a big hit early on as far as the boysenberry goes.
The honey comes through clearly. The boysenberry as well. I want to say it smells a tiny bit sweet. We'll see if that comes through in the finish or not.
It's going to be a drying finish, definitely. There's definitely enough acid, and there's a little bit of tannin in there too. You're going to feel that.
Okay,
nice
I get the
crispness
apple
on your tongue. You're going to get that.
There's some. I'm sure it's not cherry, but to me it comes through like some dark cherry notes. It's got a nice body to it, just a little bit of fine carbonation. Not so much that it's foamy, but just enough that I can kind of feel it going down the center of my tongue and my cheeks a little bit.
Carbonation is all, because we have to be very careful about the carbonation levels that we can do here, because then if you are carbonating too much, because we are a wine, then all of a sudden you'll get hit with a champagne tax, which is just like,
but
yes. So
there's I had no idea that there was a champagne tax. Would it matter if you called it just, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for here? Sparkling government overreach? Or
yes, the long arm of the law. There you go. So we can label it as petulant carbonation. So that's
petulant carbonation. So not petulant, like a child.
Petulant, exactly. Petulant carbonation.
So is
just
there
a little hint.
Like a volume of CO2 that you have to stay below?
Max out at 2 volumes.
Okay, that's
max.
That's still enough to make it.
Yeah.
And so, do they actually? Is there some like ABC agent running around that's like got a what do they call those things? Used to test carbonation. It starts with a Z.
Well,
you know, you beer guys know what I'm talking about.
Everybody, you guys are. I've been drinking too much of my own product today. So
you shake it up, and then it tells you how much CO2 you got. And so they actually going out and testing this stuff.
They can. They can do it. And I thought at first when you walked up that you might be those guys, but anyway,
it's all a trick.
That or the health department anyway. So, but no, they can do whatever they want whenever they want, basically. So you would say like, okay, well, we're just gonna play the game and do what we're supposed to do.
Right on. Yeah, excellent. This is fantastic. I've always being a beer guy, I mean, you guys know this, but man, the more that we're doing the show and going out and trying different stuff, the more it's opening me up to this whole world of amazingness that I didn't know was out there. And again, a lot of my experience with mead was either like, I don't want to say the name, but the very sweet dessert mead you get at Bevmo in the wine section, or homebrew mead, which, you know, let's just say mileage can vary.
Or you can run your lawnmower on it or whatever.
Indeed. And so this is perfectly balanced. This is perfect for a hot day. It's not sweet and syrupy. It's not, you know, so dry that it, again, with the heartburn, it's really fantastic. And it's, I want to say, pretty close to being like no other mead that I've ever tasted. And I love hearing that's pretty amazing.
I love hearing that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you guys, with this one anyway, really hit the sweet spot.
Semi. Or off dry spot. Yeah, that's it.
There you go. Well, I'm glad you're not in the wet spot.
That's B-roll film.
It's 100% going in the outtake. Oh boy.
Woo, okay.
All right. Well, here we go. Let's talk about Blue Cloak.
Okay.
And again, I know I already said it with the other bottle, but this artwork, guys, you gotta see it to believe it. It is amazing.
No, he's a good guy. He's amazing work. So this is Blue Cloak. This is probably our biggest seller. It's an orange blossom honey base with blueberry. So we actually had this also too. Took a silver at the San Diego International. So again, the profile is going to be different. It's probably going to be a little bit more full body, a little sweeter, possibly because the blueberry is just really pronounced. So you know, a lot of people perceive sweetness coming from fruit, and it's not necessarily the same thing. You can have something that's fruity, but still not have a lot of residual sugar.
Sure.
But people interpret it as being, oh, that's a lot sweeter.
Right.
It's not necessarily always the case. It's not accurate. But anyway, so just different honey, different fruit, actually a different yeast also too as well that went into this one.
Do you guys, so when you do something with blueberries or some other fruit like that, do you guys process the fruit here or?
So it depends kind of on what you're doing. Certain recipes you can use a concentrate. Certain recipes you want to use nothing but raw fruits. Certain recipes you can do a hybrid of both. So it really just kind of depends on what you want to do. So, for instance, the Raven's Claw was fresh pressed juice that came from Oregon, and then boysenberry concentrate that I got and put that all in. The Blue Cloak was a boysenberry or a blueberry concentrate that I got from a place up north, and the orange blossom honey. So that together, off it went. But there's others. We did a guava lychee that was all whole fruit, and it just really depends on what you want to do.
So
cheers.
And
Skål.
Skål. Salute. So am I looking for?
Okay. So again, the same thing. You're going to be looking. You're going to get a little bit of that orange blossom honey character is going to come through the nose. You're going to get some of that fruit coming through too as well. This type of fruit that we got, it was a little bit. It has almost more of an earthy character actually to it too as well. That adds something a little different. So it's definitely a bigger,
it's
bigger
got,
body.
To me, it's maybe the colors throw me off, but it's got like almost a pomegranate kind of aroma. Let me get it in my taster here, and maybe that'll change. Ooh.
So you'll probably pick up a little more tannin with this one too as well, because the blueberry has a little bit more tannin character that comes from the skins essentially. So you'll pick up a little bit more of that kind of that velvety note on your tongue too as well. So
it has very interesting, a little bit of astringency mouthfeel. I really like this.
What can I say?
Again, the carbonation is just kind of just enough to make it have a little of that mouthfeel, but
it helps to kind of kick up the acid too a little bit, just as well.
My gosh, and this is fantastic. If somebody told me that, like, handed me a can with this in it and told me that this was a fruity cocktail in a can or something, I might believe that. Like that's, I mean, wow.
And that's the thing is that again, it has more of a full body and a richness to it, and that's again the blueberry, the type of blueberry was just very robust. So it really adds a lot to it. So
I mean,
heavy fruit character on it, but it still dries out at the end.
It is, and it's. You're right. It is. It has the perception of sweetness up front, like you said, from the fruitiness. It's dry on the back end, but again, not so dry that it's turns into mouthwash or something.
Yeah.
This is really just amazing, and I recommend you guys seek this out and try it the next chance you get. So we know that you have amazing things to drink. Why else should people come here, and what else do you have going on?
Well, first of all, our address is 1042 La Mirada Court here in Vista, right off Sycamore, just right off 78 North County. As far as events go, we just locked it in that we can't say their names, but it's the happiest place on earth. We got back there again, so we're going to be serving this up at the happiest place on earth.
Gotcha.
So I can't use the name. But we also just confirmed that we're going to be at the Scottish American Highland Games again here in Vista.
Excellent.
So we were there a couple years ago before COVID, and they asked us to come back, so we'll be there. That's the end of June. Mm-hmm. We're also at the Vista Viking Fest, which is end of September. So we've been doing that for quite a few years too.
I've done that a few times. It's a
fun
lot
time.
of fun.
It's a fun time.
I've never walked away.
Throwing axes and archery, and
spear
people
throwing.
beating each other up.
Yes,
kind of
that's
thing.
also a thing.
Yep. So we're there.
My friend's rugby club does the security for the.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I know those guys. So
they do a great job. Let's just leave it at that.
Yes, they are. And then we'll do our year anniversary. Shindig is going to be coming up here in a few months.
5 year or 6 year?
This will be our 5th year.
5th year.
Yep. So we'll have our anniversary for that here probably April, May-ish. A lot of things in flux right now. So
everybody's dealing with that. How has COVID affected you guys, and just how have you what have you had to do to get through it, and how big of a hit did you take? Did it set you back 2 years, or what was what's the kind of story there for you guys?
Well, fortunately, we're still here. I've known some other places and known the people personally that had to close because of it. We had a wonderful ground support of fan base, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. Of people that really just supported us. They came in, they bought, they just kept on coming, bringing people. I mean, even though the line's going out the door just so you can come and buy a bottle, or, we had a Growler exchange program that we did because you had people well, now I got 13 Growlers at my house. I mean, what do I do with these things? So we decided, okay, well, we'll do an exchange program. It's okay, you bring in your Growlers, clean, then we'll go ahead and re-clean, sanitize, do everything else. So it'll be just a direct exchange instead of you accumulating all these pieces of glass. But again, the public was phenomenal. They really supported us. We had people literally just writing checks. Here, please, we don't want you to close. And that's no baloney. That's real deal. People just saying, here, take this because we can't have you closed down. So, but again, I think this place is a little different than a lot of, breweries or tasting rooms or whatever, that there's just something more personal about this place. You got the guy in the three-piece suit sitting next to the guy with the chainmail on. Everyone's getting along. So the people are just a kind of a different ilk, and we don't have issues as far as what you might find in the dive bar with people and not getting along or whatever. We just attract a different kind of clientele here, and they supported us to no end. It was great.
I think they call that community these days.
Yeah. I mean, we were shocked. I was like, wow, this is just most impressive.
That's awesome that you guys are able to pull all that support. And it also means that you must be doing something really right to have that many people that were that serious of fans about your place and what you do. I mean, that's awesome. That's actually very heartening to hear in a sea of years of bad news that there's people out there that care about their community and a place like this that's so different that they would be willing to go out of their way to do anything to make sure that it's stays a fixture in the community. That's
it was
awesome
scary,
stuff.
but they came to the rescue. They really did. So hats off to all of you people that supported us. So thank you very much.